Did you ever wonder what it would be like to grab all of your random personalities, put them in a blender, and play them in a dungeon looter RPG-like video game? Nobody Saves the World is a little bit like that. It's like that Pixar movie Inside Out, but in a video game format, and you're on a quest to defeat something and save who knows what? Because you can't actually remember. It's a cool premise with an even cooler aesthetic. This is my review for Nobody Saves the World. Now tip your glass and cue that lovable 80s intro. As soon as you boot up Nobody Saves the World, you are instantly teleported onto a zippy and musically head-bobbing main menu screen. Zippy because it takes you a fraction of a second to load into this game that's barely 2/3 of a gig in size. There isn't much in the way of options in this game because there truly doesn't need to be. I was actually shocked at the limitations that we are so accustomed to until I finally started playing it and realized, oh, it doesn't need all that extra when the extra is baked into the proverbial cake. Right away, your eyes are lit up from cheeky dialogue and comic pop-style 2D graphics. You are nobody, a nameless, androgynous character that can't remember who they are and don't know how they ended up in a shack in the south side of town, which is very reminiscent of my early 20s. Ah, the good old days. I miss you, Natty Light. Just kidding, I don't. As you navigate your character through the world, there are so many eye-catching characters, attack animations, and design choices that make you pause and drink in the oversaturation of this game. It's like Lisa Frank is in charge of production over there at Drinkbox Studios, and she is done with the cats and unicorns. Bring on those slugs and Chad bodybuilders, please. The world is starkly divided as you load screen into a new zone, and you will automatically know where you're at without necessarily having to look on your map, although other things will make you do that plenty. Every zone oozes unique aesthetic and a connected world while maintaining its solo individualism. It's kind of like, instead of traveling from just North Dakota to South Dakota, it's more along the lines of traveling from Florida to Colorado. Now, with such a small file game, you should have zero problems running this on any type of machine. I'm pretty sure I could run this game on my fucking smartwatch if I wanted to. However, there have been some reports of crashing after the initial load screen and intro screen, so if you have these issues, the general fix seems to just be reining in your third-party antivirus software because, let's face it, those are all memory and money hungry these days anyway. I personally have had no visual issues or crashes with this game. Alright, sound is up next and might be my favorite thing to talk about in this review. So, aside from zone loading, which there is in this world but luckily it's quick, there is always badass music playing. I would literally wake up, be getting ready for work, and start just humming random tunes in this friggin' game. That's how catchy they are, and it really gives this game an appropriately whimsical vibe. So much so that you actually do notice the lack of music on loading screens, which is just a testament to how great said music really is. From the pathetic push sound that comes out of Nobody's voice, which is hysterical by the way, to the machine gun tear attack from the slug form, all of these sounds really hit the mark and then some. Sounds pop, deaths and animations sound really crisp and fluid, and you're never left wondering if an attack sounds lackluster, because if it does, it is actually probably meant to sound that way for comic relief. It's nice that the sound department has really laid a solid foundation to this game, especially because I think it's more than half the battle with these 2D games. I really have no complaints here from the sound effects. However, I will say that one thing I do wish they had implemented would be to have some strong voice acting here. This is a completely text reading based game with noises and voices coming at you like Jawas when they're beating the shit out of the Mandalorian. I'm sure it had to do with the budget and time constraints, or hell, I don't know, maybe it was just a creative decision from the beginning. However, I do think that for how fun and animated all these characters turned out to actually be, there could have been some really solid voice acting to just take it over the top. I know a lot of people will probably disagree with me on this one, and that's fine. I can totally see their point of view on that. Still, I don't know, I would have loved to have seen this, and I think it would have been really badass. When you wake up dazed and confused as nobody, I feel like the developers almost wanted you, the gamer, to feel the same. You get tasked with quests and knowledge remembering right off the bat like you're freaking Guy Pearce in Memento. To a lot of people, this could be a con. A good example in another game would be how annoying and in-your-face phone calls and quest map markers were in Cyberpunk 2077. Here it's definitely not that bad, but it does take some paying attention to kind of know what's what. The developers even put mini trivia quests and dungeons to make sure you've been paying attention the entire time. So, speaking of dungeons, these are easily the crux of the game. They are single conquer but repeatable instances in which you wind through the levels a la Diablo style until reaching the end boss. Once defeated, and as long as it isn't a legendary dungeon, you can repeat it if you wish, but I rarely did this and only when I needed to level up and finish a quest related to the dungeon. Looking at the map sort of incentivizes you to be completionist anyway and finish all the dungeons rather than just kind of do one over and over, which, hey, I'm totally fine with. In order to finish some legendary dungeons, which are the apex instances in this game, you are tasked with knowing an enemy's ward weakness at the very beginning. Some instances will have a single ward and others up to friggin' 4. These are basically just the type of attack that you need to perform in order to knock a specific shield off of an enemy. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? Until you're at an end boss that spawns 2 different warded enemies, one of which kamikazes you, and the other has ranged attacks. This can be super stressful, all the while insanely fun. It forces you to play different transformations, and while you may have a favorite one, just like everyone secretly has a favorite kid, sometimes you have to play with that other one just to make the wife happy.
If you're saying I play favorites, you're wrong. I love all my children equally. I don't care for Joe.
But seriously, being in the thick of switching between 3 forms, trying to remember what abilities you mixed and matched on what character and ultimately winning just with a sliver of health is an exhilarating experience. Part of this is because the developers at Drinkbox actually make this really easy. Switching between characters is as easy as when you wash the dishes, you know, and you press that little button on the faucet sink and it changes the water pressure from what I like to call spray gun to ray gun. And once you defeat all of the baddies, upgrading feels fun and rewarding. I actually got a few friends of mine to play the game, and because I was ahead of them in the story, they kept asking like who to unlock and who had the best abilities, to which I obviously replied, hey, never gonna tell ya, unlock everything, just do it. And that's actually what I would tell all of you watching this video if you asked me. Some unlocked characters you grab right away and you think, ugh, really? I was so excited for this one and they look so cool, but they're kind of bad. Well, then you unlock them to level B and get their second ability and you're like, holy shit, I see now, and the light bulb goes off. The progression here is expertly paced with the story. Unfortunately, that's where one of my cons comes in. Okay, so the story isn't bad, nor are some of the quests necessarily. They're just not that important, and it was fairly bland and straightforward, unlike the characters, which are super vivid and alive. I just tend to feel like the older I get, that the more unimpressed I am with storylines anyway, and that could just be because I've seen all the tropes from being around for a bit. However, there are still things that they could have done here to keep you better engaged, but I truly think that this was just a design decision for putting gameplay forward. And to be fair to Drinkbox, I'm really not upset with that. With this conclusion, I'll just say it, go download and play this game. It's fun, it's rewarding, and even if you play just for a few hours and then pick it back up in like a month, it still has that friendly feeling like, you know, when you don't talk to an old pal for a while and then you finally meet up for brunch mimosas. God, that sounds good right now. Can this winter storm go away so we can actually do that on Sunday? Who's with me? Man, I haven't been a snooze in a while. Okay, anyway, it's on Game Pass right now and it appreciates your time and the tight runtime of around 20 hours for a full playthrough. So go have a blast and let me know in the comments what your favorite form is. Until next time, my friends.